The Comedy Store, located at 8433 West Sunset Boulevard. In the 1930s, long before it became a showcase for up-and-coming comedians, the site was known as Ciro's, one of Hollywood's most popular clubs during the 1940s and 50s. "All the greats from the era came here," said Tommy Morris, assistant director of operations and talent coordinator at the Comedy Store. "It was a big deal to perform at Ciro's." Besides showcasing big-name talent like Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis, and Lucille Ball, Ciro's was also known for another reason: its owners had close ties with the mob. It was the place to be for various elements of the criminal underworld. Mobsters and gangsters of the worst kind used the club as not only a hangout, but also a place to take care of the most brutal elements of their business. "These were really people just like mobsters in the movies," Morris said. The basement of the club was known for good reasons. Anyone who was perceived to have committed a wrong against the mob was taken to the basement of the building where their fate would be decided. The lucky ones made it out, but others were never seen again. The building still has peek holes in the upper walls of the main room that allowed mobsters to see who was coming and going at the club. Psychics have also documented ghost activity at the club. The Comedy Store feels like a very old place that has a lot of strange things going on that freak people out. Morris also said, "Cold spots are very common in the main room. The air suddenly gets ice cold, and you can see your breath. This is known as a sign of paranormal activity." Employees frequently get calls on the intercom system from line 31, an extension that does not exist. It is said that 2 angry ghosts inhabit the club. One of the angriest ghosts was a hitman for the mob. His name was Gus. His spirit is outraged that he was killed there. Some say that of the 2 mafia hitmen who still haunt there, they reportedly don't cause any problems, and they are really there to protect the property. Eventually, Ciro's changed hands, and in 1972, was taken over by comedians Rudy DeLuca and Sammy Shore. Their dream was to turn the club into a showcase for comedians who needed a place to perfect their craft. From that point on, the club would be known as the Comedy Store. Things were going good for the club, then in 1973, Sammy Shore and his wife divorced. Mitzi Shore, who passed away in 2018, took over operations at the Comedy Store as part of their divorce agreement. She would later buy the building and expand it to seat over 400 guests. Throughout the coming years, comedians flocked to Mitzi's club for the chance to perform in front of a full house every night. Mitzi was innovating and groundbreaking. She converted the upstairs section of the Comedy Store into the belly room, which she exclusively booked female comics. At the time, stand-up comedy was a male-dominated field. She was also one of the first comedy clubs to book Latino, gay and lesbian comedians. The list of comedy legends who got their start at the comedy club is impressive, to say the least. Among the ones who appeared there were Jerry Seinfeld, Gary Shandling, Roseanne Barr, Chevy Chase, Jim Carrey, Billy Crystal, Ellen DeGeneres, and Sam Kinison. But the hauntings continued. On one occasion, comedian Blake Clark and another comedian named Joey Gaynor encountered something in the basement that they could not explain. They both witnessed a shadowy figure, at least 7 feet tall, float across the floor. Terrified, the 2 men ran upstairs and straight out of the building onto Sunset Boulevard. After a few moments, the men decided to return to the basement to see if the ghostly figure they had seen was real or a figment of their imaginations. Upon descending the basement stairs, they saw the creature crouched in a corner. When it sensed their presence, it rose slowly and came straight for them. Again they ran out as fast as they could, but not before noticing that the being had only a dark void where its face should have been. On another occasion, while working his duties as a security guard, Clark had to go into the basement to investigate a series of strange noises that were so loud they could be heard upstairs. It was 3 o'clock in the morning when he made his way down the basement stairs. Clark could hear a growling noise coming from somewhere in the darkness. Suddenly, he heard something strike the basement door so violently that it had bowed outward. He later said, "It looked as though something was pushing on the door with such force that it was actually bending the wood." Clark would return to the basement one last time. While checking out mysterious noises once again, Clark watched as a black piece of paper materialized from thin air, gently touching his hand as it floated to the floor. When he picked it up, he saw that one word had been etched onto the phantom paper: his name. Clark knew the thing in the basement knew his name. He had seen it and it had seen him. He never again set foot in the basement. One of the spirits there is said to be that of a woman who is frequently heard in the showroom. She is known to whisper to anyone she encounters. But she is never seen, but the sound of her voice is well known to many of the people who work in the club. One day a woman working in one of the building's offices also encountered the man in a bomber jacket. When she saw him, he was hiding on the third floor, crouched in a corner with a look of terror on his face. He then disappeared before her eyes. Several male entities frequently appear in the main room of the club. They seem to be acting as security. They are known to walk around, inspecting the crowd and keeping an eye on the stage. They are said to always be dressed in clothing from the 1940s. Blake Clark recalls one night when he saw a chair glide 20 feet across an empty stage, as though being pushed by unseen hands. He and Joey Gaynor also witnessed chairs, which had only moments earlier been in their proper places around the dining tables, stacked on top of each other in the middle of the room. So what do you think about the Comedy Store, its history and its hauntings? Tell us in the comments below. And also, as always, please like and subscribe.